Hello there, friends. Welcome to BJJ Meditations. This is BJJ Meditations episode number 56, I believe. I think that's where we are. I'm your host, Joe Hannon, Joe from Jersey. Joe, who is feeling very beat up because he's got a local comp next weekend. And then the New York Open, I think it's 2 weeks after. I don't even know anymore. This is something that I always wanted to experiment with and never really got the chance until now. Just living in this constant state of readiness to be as prepared as I can be at all times, rather than just doing like the training camp thing. I'm trying to permanently live in a training camp, and what that looks like for me now at 37 is different from what it might have looked like 10 years ago or even 5 years ago. But it's nice to just have that feeling of being stretched to one's limits, but in a sustainable way. And I'm curious to see what the results end up being at this local competition, assuming I get a match. It looks like there's some other black belts who are signed up who are a little bit younger, but also a little bit lighter, and maybe we'll get thrown into the same bracket. I don't know. We'll see. There's a part of me that feels trepidation about going into the arena once again. And yesterday, one of my teammates approached to me in a good-natured way, was really excited and said, "Oh, there's some black belts. You'll probably get a match." And immediately I kind of felt this sense of dread, I guess, because there had been, at least in my mind, there had been an out. There had been this potential that I wouldn't get an opponent, and then I wouldn't have to compete. I would just get to go and coach or whatever. I've been sitting with that feeling of relief and then that feeling of fear that came up immediately after. It reminds me of something that Josh once said in a training context. He said that if you give yourself an out, you will take it. And that's an example of I was giving myself an out psychologically. I was potentially giving myself an out physically, literally. And then it didn't materialize, but the psychological out still kind of lingers. So sitting with that. Really sitting with it. When I say that, I'm not trying to judge it in any way. I could very easily cast judgment on that, but I'm not this time. I'm just kind of trying to observe it for what it is and to be patient with it. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at right now on my comp journey, my journey toward, I don't know, what am I journeying toward? A life in the martial arts. There is no destination. It's just the path unfolding for me. Maybe it's different for you. But today I'm here to talk about something that I've been percolating on for a number of weeks and have yet to address. And this is an episode where definitely if you're listening to this in the car with your children, you're going to want to pause right now and listen on headphones or listen when the car is empty. Because this episode, as you could tell probably just from the title, is going to have some spicy language. So I'll give you a second here for you to make any adjustments that you need to before we continue. So the concept behind today's episode is this concept I've been noodling on for a while that I'm calling real motherfuckers. Real motherfuckers are people I find endlessly fascinating, people I find myself gravitating toward, people I find who are moved by this podcast tend to be real motherfuckers. This is a concept that came up in conversation with Emily and Josh during one of our working sessions. We were talking about this tendency for real motherfuckers to attract. I guess it's another manifestation of like attracts like. But I've been, since that conversation, which happened a number of months ago, I've been trying to deconstruct this idea of a real motherfucker. Who are they? What are they? What qualities do they have? And of course, since this is a Jiu Jitsu podcast, how does Jiu Jitsu tie into all this? Because, hey, what do you know? There tend to be a lot of real motherfuckers in Jiu Jitsu. Why is that? There also tend to be a lot of people in Jiu Jitsu who are like this close to being a real motherfucker, and they don't sort of level up. Why is that? And I feel as though I'm finally close to offering some sort of explanation on this. And this podcast, as BJJ Meditations tends to be, is going to be yet another instance of me playing verbal jazz here and trying to piece something together that looks like a framework that I may abandon outright by the time I'm done talking about it. But who are real motherfuckers? In my mind, real motherfuckers are people who live without affectation. On the last episode, I talked about this idea of the Northern Atlantic affect, this bullshit accent that people in the Northeast have developed over the years to connote a sense of education or class or status or whatever. The Northern Atlantic affect. So people who live without that kind of posturing, that kind of ostentatiousness, that's a really important quality for a real motherfucker. I also think that real motherfuckers are people who take their shit on. And when I say their shit, I'm talking sort of about this idea of the Jungian shadow, the aspects of ourselves that are hard for us to see. We need others to kind of point them out to us, or we need systems to surface them. And then we need to then be about the work of integrating that darkness or those undesirable aspects of ourselves. There's a phrase that sticks in my mind that really bothers me. You hear celebrities say this all the time, or athletes, whenever they're embroiled in some sort of scandal, they'll say, "That's not me." You know, that person who did that, that's not me. They're creating this distance between the act and themselves. It's not just a verbal trick, it's also a psychological trick. But the truth is, yeah, that was you. That was just a part of you that you didn't realize or didn't recognize. Whenever I do wrong by somebody, whenever I fail to live up to the expectations of my students, whenever I fail on the mat to win, it's really me. It's some dark or disturbed or unsettled or unsurfaced aspect of myself that is undermining me. So people who are real motherfuckers are about that work of surfacing that shit and taking it on. Two other qualities I kind of see in real motherfuckers. They're people who contain multitudes in the Walt Whitman sense of things. They have multiple aspects to their personhood, to who they are. They have diverse interests. They are about savoring the zest of life. And that, in the Jiu Jitsu sense, is both on and off the mats. They are realizing that there really is only one circle or one arena. Jiu Jitsu is sort of just a model of this much larger infinite game that we're playing called life. And that infinite game has many players and many dimensions. And they are leveraging whatever their area of focus is. It could be Jiu Jitsu, it could be rock climbing, it could be playing guitar, it doesn't matter. But they're using that to put them in touch with those multitudinous aspects of themselves and of life itself. And then I think the final quality of the people that I consider to be real motherfuckers is that they simultaneously love themselves, but they're also about this work of being, which includes training within that singular circle. It includes taking their shit on. They can strike this balance between being whole, but also realizing that life is a journey, and that journey requires us, much like you're playing any sort of journey-based video game, thinking like Legend of Zelda or even Super Mario Brothers, it requires you to broaden your skill set and your perspectives in order for you to keep playing the game. And in the context of an infinite game, that's the purpose of the game. The purpose of the game is not to stack up points, to win plaudits, to win trophies, medals, whatever. It's to keep the game going for the sake of its game, for the sake of the game itself. So people who can do that, they have a strong sense of self, and they have some sort of grip on that. They have some sort of love and appreciation and respect for themselves. But that grip is not too firm. They're willing to let it go. They're willing to adjust. They're willing to modify. So all of these things are sort of like this constellation of what I consider to be a real motherfucker. Now, how does BJJ make you a real motherfucker? Here's the thing. I think that Jiu Jitsu doesn't make you a real motherfucker. I think it's part of the process of becoming one, but ultimately it's you that has to make you a real motherfucker. I talked about this a little bit on the last episode. The pressure cooker effect of Jiu Jitsu. You get embroiled in this really intense physical practice. And in the beginning, it's a very steep learning curve. You don't know shit. You're in really close physical proximity with people, many of whom are more skilled, bigger, stronger than you. And think about being under the side control or the mount of a really large and skilled opponent. And think about all the things that bubble up inside of you. The primordial fear-based shit, the physiological shit, the profuse sweating that just reeks of fear coming out of every pore in your body. What's left at the bottom of that mount is really who you are. It's you in your most potent and distilled form. And what do you choose to do with that? All that affectation, all the airs that you put on, all the personas and masks that you wear in your day-to-day life are gone. It's just you in a gi or a rash guard in a really shitty position. Nobody cares if you're the successful CEO of some company. Nobody cares if you're a billionaire hedge fund manager. Nobody cares if you're a plumber. You're just another person at the bottom of side control. And what the fuck are you going to do with that? That's you right there. It's like that REM song. That's me in the corner. Well, that's you in the spotlight of Mount. Now, are you a real motherfucker because you have that revelation? No. You got to do something with it. My feeling here is that training anything, in this case, we're talking about training jiu-jitsu, but I really believe that this can be anything that is a hard thing, something that forces this reckoning with the fact that you are limited as a human in terms of your skills, in terms of your mental frameworks, in terms of your cognitive capacity. Anything that makes you run up against that is a thing that can produce this revelation. But the revelation itself is just, it's an appearance in consciousness, right? It's a thought like any other thought. If you pay close attention to that revelation, it's there and it's gone. You're thinking about this really huge, important revelation that taught you something about yourself, and then you're thinking about the sandwich you want to make for lunch, or you're thinking about the sex you want to have with your wife later tonight, or husband, or partner, or whatever. You know, doesn't matter to me. Enjoy it, as long as it's consensual. Regardless, that revelation needs to be acted upon in a systematic and systemic way in order for it to be meaningful. In other words, we need a feedback loop to integrate the information. Without the loop, it's just feedback. It might as well just be noise. It's just a thought or a feeling appearing in consciousness like any other. It's up to us to act on it in a meaningful way that's actually going to produce change, that's going to move us along on this path of being. So that sort of begs the question of, okay, so I am about creating these qualities of being a real motherfucker, right? I am embracing this pressure cooker effect. I am using the revelations that are produced out of it to make myself a more, let's say, well-rounded person on this path through life. I'm doing that, right? Is it a one and done proposition? Am I suddenly a real motherfucker because I do this one time? No, like, this is something we have to navigate constantly. It's a dynamic that's like very present for me in my professional life right now, where I was reflecting the other day that I have essentially started over as a professional 3 times, and I'm now 37 and I'm looking over at another restart. And in some ways, I'm saying to myself, I'm 37. Do I really want to feel like I'm 13 all over again? And the answer is yes, because that's the work of being. That's exciting to me. That's where the learning and the growth happens. And I was having a similar conversation with a client the other day where he said something to the effect of, the growth curve is never going to be as steep as it is right now for me as a white belt. And I just want to savor that feeling because it doesn't come back again. And I thought a bit about it and I'm like, well, yeah, it does come back again because here I am as a black belt trying to be a better competitor, going up against people who have been black belts as long as I've been training jiu-jitsu. I may as well be a white belt. I'm starting all over again. I don't like all of the really uncomfortable feelings and emotions and sensations that are a part of this process, but it tells me that I'm alive, and it tells me that I'm moving along this process of being a real motherfucker. And there are moments where my ego crops up and gets super protective and doesn't want to feel that pain and just wants the rewards, just wants sort of just wants the affectation, right? Wants the insulation that comes from the affectation. And that's when I slip out of being a real motherfucker. But presence, awareness, and work, tuning into that feedback loop and choosing to do the hard thing, hopefully sustain me on this path of being a real motherfucker. We got to keep moving. We got to keep navigating. And I think that this is a dynamic that's very present in the people I've connected with via this podcast. I think we are this tribe of people who are about the work of being real motherfuckers. And I am super stoked to be doing that work right alongside you. We're all on the same path. We're all striving for the same things. We're all trying to figure it out together, and we're all going to learn from each other. But I think that it all boils down to navigating that path from a heart-centered and soul-centered place, being real motherfuckers. So that's all I got for you this week. Hopefully that was useful. Curious to know what you think about it. Having said all that, I really feel like there is some signal to the noise, and now it becomes a question of, okay, that was the feedback loop talking it through with you. Now what do I do with it? What do I do with it? Thank you. Once again, if you would be interested in some sort of gathering, please email me at bjjmeditations@gmail.com. The gathering of real motherfuckers, perhaps, would look good on a t-shirt. You can go to my website. That's where you can book in-coaching sessions, in-person or online coaching sessions with me. I have a number of people doing online coaching right now who seem to be enjoying it and making great progress. And I'm just so stoked to be getting to know them. They're all just such amazing, multitudinous, fascinating, dynamic human beings. And just to have message exchanges with them daily and to review their footage and to just be a part of their walking of the path, it just really fires me up. So for you guys who are working with me, thank you very much for your support. And just know that I appreciate you. I appreciate the gut checks that you're constantly doing. You can also make a donation on the website to offset production costs. It costs just like $15 a month to host the podcast. All the equipment purchases have been made already. So yeah, if you want to throw some change my way, it's a great way to keep the episode going. I promise this will always be free. I might do some premium content somewhere along the way, but the weekly episodes will always be free and available to everybody, just as part of my mission to help everybody. And also, as I like to remind everybody, I donate 1% of all pre-tax dollars to environmental causes. I really like the effective altruism movement, and they have an environmental fund, and they sort of do the deductive work and analysis to determine what the best ROI is for dollars invested for charity. Because if any of you have ever familiarized yourself with the work of effective altruism, like a lot of times when you donate money to a charity, the money just goes to sort of maintaining the bureaucracy of the charity and not necessarily to the people you're trying to help. So big fan of making sure that the money goes where it's needed and not just to stoking bureaucracy. The website, you can read essays that sometimes underpin these episodes, and you can also sign up for our mailing list. Check out the highest levels on BJJ Mental Models. Emily just did a fantastic episode with Marcelo Garcia. That's on BJJ Mental Models Premium. You can sign up for a free 7-day trial there. If you're interested in sponsoring BJJ Meditations, especially if you work for Kekkoa Collective or Show Your Roll, you can email me. Would love that. Please like, subscribe, review, share wherever you're listening to the podcast. You can follow us on Instagram, BJJ_meditations. You can read my stuff on Substack, johannon.substack.com. And of course, please come and train at Princeton Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. If you're in the tri-state area visiting New York City, we're about, 40 minutes by train, so it's not super far. Would love to have you. Just, be clean, have a clean gi, and be a nice human being. Thank you for listening, everybody. This was a fun episode for me, hopefully useful for you, and we shall talk soon.